Hey guys, Theo Gogos with Keller Williams Realty and team lead of the Infinity Real Estate team here. Today, this video is going to be me going over a CMA, which is a comparative market analysis, essentially both for buyers and sellers. This is how I figure out the value of a property. So before I sit down with a potential seller, these are some of the numbers I'm crunching to get a better idea of what the value of the house is. Same with buyers. If they're going to put in an offer and they're like, hey, Theo, what do you think the house is worth? What would it be worth if I do X, Y, and Z to it? These are always important on both sides of every deal. So I've done it a couple different ways over the years. I figured out my favorite way of doing it and the most accurate is as follows. So basically what I do here, so a CMA too, what I like to mention is appraisers do use the comparative market analysis as one of their ways to figure out value of a property. So I am doing something similar that an appraiser would be doing. He has a couple other things he looks at. But what I'm saying is that is important to, not only for us to know the value, but for the banks as well to be willing to loan that money. So the subject property I'm going to be using for today is a duplex in North Buffalo. Sorry about that. A duplex in North Buffalo. It is the property I bought a couple years ago with a friend of mine. So just so you can see it here. This is the subject property. 157 Hartwell Road, North Buffalo, duplex. Looking at square footage, all that good stuff. I'll explain why in a second. So getting into it, what I typically do is I'll find properties that are within a mile or two. I don't like to go out too far unless it's in a rural area. You want to keep it close by, obviously, so you know the neighborhood and what the houses are going for. So that's exactly what I've done. As you can see, most of these are actually right on Hartwell. This is a very easy example for me because of the amount of duplexes in North Buffalo that sell year in and year out. So these are really, really good. I mean, they're on the same street. One on Tacoma, that's, two on Tacoma actually, that is, no more than a couple streets over. So trying to keep it very close to the subject property, which in this case is 157 Hartwell Road. That's important. So big things I look at. Days on market are big. So you're seeing here most of these 6, 8, 10, 1 or 2 weeks for most of these is what you're seeing here in terms of, it tells you it's a hot market. The other thing I look for in addition to days on market is the sales price versus original list price, meaning that listed at 295 went for 290. It's a weird example. No, listed at 295, went for 385. So it went for 130%, way over asking, probably got multiple offers. Same with this one, 350 it was listed at, went for 375, 107% of the sales price. So what this is telling me is most of these houses are going for over asking. I shouldn't even say most because it's pretty much a dead split. But it's going for, over a rate around asking. The average is about 106%. So that's one thing I look at as well. If the house is listed for 400,000, we might say, listen, there's nothing in the area that's coming close to that. 400,000 doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So that's huge. And then the other thing I look at is price per square feet. This is a big one. So what I like to do is as follows. I find the lowest, the minimum, the maximum, and the average. So what I like to do is use the subject property's square footage, multiply it by the price per square foot, and you get three different values. And why I do this is this first number here, this 258,440, that's what this house would go for, is if it needed not only cosmetic work, a lot of cosmetic work, but potentially structural work as well. That's when you're going to see the lower end there. So let's see if I can find the one. This 295, yeah, this is probably the one. 20 Tacoma probably needed a lot of work. So that's the low end of what the property's worth. So if I showed the house and, it needed a lot of cosmetic, maybe some structural, that's probably where this house is worth, closer to 260. The average, this is something that maybe needs some light cosmetic work. For the most part, is move-in ready. It's livable. That's a good, so the average here, that's a good middle point, is like 330. So I think right now in my head, my house is probably worth, as it sits, 320, 325. So this works out because mine is probably somewhere in that average. We put a lot of money into it. We bought it on the low end, had to put a lot of money into it. So I think right now we're probably somewhere in this middle range. How do we get to the high? You're talking true turnkey, updated bathrooms, updated kitchens, new flooring, new lights, like everything is done. The meat and potatoes, electrical, plumbing. This is the most that this house would ever go for if you do everything to it. That is your max after repair value is going to be this 375. So that's how I always do this. Why I like this is because everyone has different opinions on what they think a house is worth. Zillow, who I don't trust at all, always has opinions. I have opinions. Bank's going to have opinions. You have opinions. Seller has an opinion. So why I like this is because these are the receipts. You can't argue these. Like, everyone has opinions. These are the facts. You can't argue the facts. And this has worked extremely well. Like, I can tell you that when I bought this house, I think we paid 245, 250 for it. So that works there. I just told you I think it's worth or three and a quarter right now after the money we put into it. So that's true. And 375 I think is a little high for my house, even if you do everything to it, but you could probably get 360, 365, maybe even 370. So this is a really good way of doing things. Again, the three big things I look for: days on market, which are typically pretty low in Buffalo, sales price versus original list price. A lot of the times they go over asking, especially in North Buffalo, and the price per square foot that we're looking at here. So this is what tells you that the lowest one was on Hartwell, actually 103 per square foot. That's where I get this number from here. So that's basically how I run a CMA, whether it's for a buyer or a seller. I do the exact same thing. It's a lot easier with these cookie cutter homes in, say, North Buffalo than it would be if you send me out to the Amish country or somewhere in the country. That's a little bit harder. That's sometimes where I'm like, listen, I tried to run some numbers. This is one of those houses where it's worth what someone's willing to pay for it, which I know is a little bit crazy to say, but it's the truth. So sometimes these are easier than others depending on the house and location. If it's in a residential neighborhood, it's a little bit easier than the farm out in, Amish country or something like that. So I hope this sort of helps put yourself into my shoes for a minute and understand where I get these numbers from when I say it, because I'm not just pulling these out of thin air. I have a method to my madness. So I hope that helps. Talk to you guys next time. Take care.